All right, hello, journalism students. So I hope everyone's doing well. This is our lesson for April 27th to May 1st. So this goes along with the Google Doc. This week the Google Doc should have made a copy for every student. So you'll see on the first page there's 4 steps. They're pretty straightforward. And then if you scroll to the second page, that's the one that you want to actually type on. So once you submit that or turn that in, I'll give you feedback as soon as I can. And really, you don't want to procrastinate on that because the thing that you're turning in are your questions that you want to send out to your sources for your article. So the sooner you get them to me, the sooner I give you feedback, the sooner you can get them out. So the first task is just kind of a warm up. I want everyone to go to their favorite news source or any news source and find a current event. So it doesn't have to be directly related to the coronavirus, but obviously globally it's the most important thing right now. So it should be relevant. But again, it doesn't have to be directly related. It could be how people are spending their time. It could be new discoveries that are happening, how the planet's reacting to people staying at home. It doesn't necessarily have to be about the coronavirus, but it's very hard to find news now that isn't somehow related to it. So there's a forum post. Check out the link on the Google Doc. The post is in Vision. I put up a sample already, and I just want you to post the URL and just a couple sentences why you thought that was important. I want to encourage you to read as many of these forums as you can. You don't have to respond. I'm not requiring it. Certainly you can respond if you'd like to. The reason is the more articles that you read, the more you're going to internalize that process, and the stronger your article will be that you write. Second task, I shared a sample article from Loudon Now, and this is about athletes whose athletic careers are kind of coming to a halt during these times. And so I want you to read that. It features 3 groups of students, and the first thing I want to point out is the headline. It all came to a screeching halt, and that's a direct quote. You can see it's in quotes, colon, so there's a subheadline, lost spring sports season leaves a gap for athletes and families. Look at how there's an active verb. It leaves. Leaves is the active verb. What's happening? The season is leaving a gap and it's impacting athletes and families. So one of the things you'll have to do on your brainstorming sheet this week is propose 3 possible titles for your article. I know you haven't written them yet, but it's important to start thinking about headlines, not titles. So 3 sample headlines. And I want you to think about active verbs. So who is doing the action and what is the action? In this case, sports season is leaving a gap. Other things I liked about this sample article that I want you to read is the lead. There was an immediate emotional hook. The first sentence, tennis has always been a part of Luke McCullen's life since kindergarten. So immediately we know, and we soon learn that he's a senior, immediately we know that this is important to him. It's an emotional punch to the gut. We know the headline, we know what it's about, and we can see that this student is having to deal with something that no one really wants to deal with. The lead quote transition quote formula, it works really well here. It follows mostly the athlete and the athlete's families, and they do this with 2 other families. So they have good quotes from the athlete, they have good quotes from the parent, and you can certainly ask, as one of your sources, you can ask parents for interviews. The worst that can happen is they say no. So whoever your student source is, if you're interviewing a student, ask them, hey, would one of your parents or guardians be able to talk to us, or sibling, or aunt, or uncle, or someone? Again, the worst they could say is no. A lot of people are stuck at home. They're looking for something to do. They want to share their opinion. Um, the article features 3, so 3 students, or 3 groups of students, and then their families. I did want to note that because multiple members of the family are being interviewed in the sample article, the article does use first names. I know I've been writing on your articles, use last names, even if it's a teacher and it seems disrespectful, it doesn't matter. The AP news and yearbook format follows that formula where you use the last name. If you're interviewing, say, 3 people in the same family, and there's, let's say, 2 sisters and a mother, it's going to get confusing because they'll usually all have the same last name. So you can, in that situation, introduce the full name the first time that you introduce each person, but then you can use the first names in that scenario. All right, your third task. This is the fun task. You are going to write, as you proposed last class, an article, a photojournalism piece. You're going to produce something that's going to be published and shared. And I really want to highlight the fact that this is a unique opportunity for you as a student journalist. Next year, most of you are going into yearbook or newspaper, and you're going to be sharing your voice. A lot is happening right now. Years in the future, and I say this honestly, years in the future, people are going to come back to our student newspaper, to our yearbook, to any publication that's out there, and they're going to look at how people reacted to this situation. I don't know how much you're following the news, but people are looking back to the 1918 flu pandemic that happened. I know that my great grandmother was actually killed in that pandemic. She caught the flu. My grandmother was only 4 or 5 months old when that happened, so she doesn't remember anything. I could never have asked her for details about that. But now people are going back to publications and things that were written back in 1918 and 1919 to see how people dealt with it. So the same thing is going to happen the next time there's an epidemic or a pandemic or something like that, or people who are just researching, they're going to look for local publications. And one of the publications they're going to look at is the Loudoun County High School student newspaper. So you get to be part of that. I'm going to publish each article individually on our blog, as I've been doing. And then once I get all the articles in, I'm going to create a PDF. I don't know if we'll get to print it, just because of the situation. I don't know how we distribute a print copy, but it'll look like a print copy. It'll be in PDF, and it'll be accessible to everyone. So for this part of the assignment, if you look at the second page of your Google document, there's some questions you can just type in, use as much space as you need for each question. Try to send those in as soon as you can, and I'll respond as soon as I'm able, as soon as I get those. Because once you get your questions, you want to send them out to your sources. Just because people are sitting at home, or most people are sitting at home, doesn't mean they'll respond quickly. People by nature seem to be procrastinators, so the sooner you send out the questions, the better. And on the next slide, I'll give you some deadlines. So when you receive your responses back, you want to read through them. If you have follow-up questions that you know you're going to need the answer to, or if they give you kind of terrible responses, just email me and I'll help you suggest some follow-up questions. If you already have follow-up questions in mind, just go ahead and send those out to your sources. You can circle and highlight important information to get ready for next week. So here's the timeline. Next week, May 4th through the 8th, we're going to work on our rough drafts. So you need to have your responses back at some point before that. So you want to send out your questions as soon as possible and give your interviewees a timeline. So say, we're going to be writing our drafts starting on May 4th. So obviously you don't want to send the questions out on May 3rd and say, I need these back in 3 hours, please. You want to try to give them several days to work on it. So the sooner you send it out, the better. Give them a definite deadline. If you would like me to read over your email or your text that you want to send out asking if they're willing to answer the questions, you can certainly share that with me and I'll give you feedback right away. Email is the best way to contact me. I try to respond within a couple hours, but always within 24 hours for sure. So next week we're working on our rough drafts. The week after that, I'll give you feedback and you're going to do follow-up interviews as needed. The week after that, we'll work on polishing final drafts, captions, pictures, a final chance to make these perfect. And then the week after that, they'll be sent to administration. Probably a select few of you will need to make some changes based on what administration says, but I'm going to try to catch any of those ahead of time, so there shouldn't be any red flags that we're unaware of. Once in a while, there is something that I didn't see that administration has a problem with, but it's rare. So that's the plan. I hope you're excited about getting a chance to be part of basically what's going to become Loudoun County High School history. Keep in touch, post on the forum, send me emails. I miss seeing everyone, and I hope everyone's doing well.